Hello oGT network of Isaac from Morocco, I hope you are doing great. This is your MCVP oGT and I'm glad to welcome you again to another episode of NEC for oGT Morocco. In today's episode we will be talking about a very important topic, which is how to win my IR's heart, or in other words, how can we run proper IR inside of our entities. Now, for the main objectives that we need to fulfill by the end of this NEC, we need to understand the cruciality of international relations for the global science product, and also we need to understand how to run IR inside of our entities. The first question that we need to ask ourselves before going any further is, what are international relations? International relations are the sum of all the activities that we run in ISAC between two entities or countries to make sure that our operations work in the best way possible. And it can have different activities based on the scale or the type of the partnership, such as partnership meetings, checkpoints, seederships, international FASI opportunities, or any other different investments. Now, why is it important to have IR? IR actually help us deliver more and better professional experiences to our youth. It allows us to fasten the matching process of customers to opportunities. It helps us to make the attraction and sales parts easy and very efficient. And of course, it helps us to grow disruptively. Now, what are the steps that we need to follow in order for us to make sure we are running proper international relations? The first step is the supply and demand analysis, and in this step we need to check some points. The first point is to understand our markets in a way that will allow us to know more about the kind of schools or any other markets that we do have inside of our cities. Then we need to define the buyer personas for each one of the markets defined, so we can have a clear idea about the customers that we will be targeting. What comes next is to decide on the focus subproducts on the basis of our defined markets and buyer personas. Then we define our timeline and understand more about where each step of the customer flow falls in a way that will allow us to plan proper actions in the future. What needs to happen next is to define the needs of our IR in terms of profiles, so we can match our markets to their own markets. And of course, we need to define focus subproducts of our IR in a way that will help us understand each other's priorities, and finally to understand the timeline of our potential IR so we can adapt ours to it. The next step is to understand more about the feasibility of this partnership. And in order to do that, we need to analyze the history of performance of both our entity with the other potential entity. And in order to do that, we can use some platforms that will actually provide us with data such as Expand Core, and this step makes us understand more about the previous year's results, if there were any. Then what we need to do next is to analyze the existing partnerships of our potential IR, and that's with the intention to know from where our IR actually are getting their demand and how can we position ourselves to fit or even take over. Then what comes next is to understand more about the history of performance and know what kind of experiences our potential IR has been providing previously, so we can know more about what kind of enhancement we can point out and we can have in the future. What comes next is the analysis of the NPS, which is the Net Promoter Score, and it's very, very important because it will give us a clear idea about the kind of quality of experiences our potential IR is providing, and finally understanding more about the visa procedure so we can anticipate any kind of difficulties that we might face. The next step that comes is to have our first virtual meeting with the IR. And the first step that we need to make sure we are delivering is a proper introduction and a get to know. This very simple step allows us to connect more to our international relations and help us actually build a proper basis upon which we can grow our partnerships and even sustain them in the future. Then what we need to do is to discuss details. And by details we mean subproducts, opportunities provided, enablers, job descriptions, salary, duration, working hours, and flexibility, and the whole process in general and how it goes. Then what we need to do is to set measurable goals upon what we have discussed before, and on the basis of also the context and the data. Then to set a co-delivery strategy to make sure that both entities are included in delivering the best quality experiences that we can. Then we need to define the kind of touch points we are going to be having with this partner, and the kind of accountabilities each one of us have. Then finally, what we need to do is to define the communication plan and also the kind of channels we are going to be using. The final step in building an international relation with a certain partner is to align the network, and in order to do that, we need to gather the output of all the previous steps that we have had and to share them with our partner and also with our network. Then we need to create our communication channels and make sure everyone is added and everyone is involved. And finally, to align all the teams regarding the ethics and decisions taken towards efficient and sustainable partnerships with this partner. That was it, guys, for this NEC regarding how to win my IR's heart. I hope that you had a clear idea about the kind of steps and the kind of actions that you need to take in order to make it happen. If you guys have any doubts or questions, don't hesitate to approach me, and I will be seeing you very soon in the next NEC.